Hello, and welcome to the latest installment in the UXDX online series. I hope you're as excited as I am for our talk today. And I just wanted to say, unfortunately, Smita, who was on the agenda, she had an accident recently and is not able to join us. So we do hope that she gets better soon, and we'll let you know when we can reschedule, and hopefully everything is okay there. But before we jump into our talk today, I'd like to give a very quick introduction to UXDX and why we host these events. So our mission at UXDX is to help companies shift from building software using waterfall, or more commonly water scrumfall, to truly autonomous empowered teams. Now, the reason why that's our mission is because in a high change environment, it's more effective, it's more efficient, and it's more sustainable way of working. Now, the reason why I said high change is because if you're just doing a couple of projects a year, it makes sense. Build a team, disband them, move them somewhere else. But if you're like a lot of companies that I've worked at recently, where there's literally hundreds of projects going on at any given time, it makes more sense to have people really focused on an aspect of the product where they can learn about the customer needs, learn about the business needs, and then iterate and make sure that they keep improving on that element of the product. Now, that's really easy to say, but it's very hard to do because that involves changing so many aspects of how we build software and how we govern software as well. So that's where these talks come in. And we ask people to share not the entire thing, because it's too much to talk about the entire product delivery lifecycle, but just about how they're improving their aspect of it. And hopefully that gives you some ideas on how you can change how you're doing things. So with that, the speakers are really open for questions. At the end of every talk, the speaker will leave a few minutes for Q&A. So please do ask any questions that you have, either in the chat box on the side in UXDX or whichever social platform that you're watching this on. And we'll collate those questions and put them through to the speaker. Now, sometimes we can't get through every question. So that's where the UXDX community Slack group comes in. And in the Ask the Speakers channel, we'll put any questions that we don't have time to get through today, and we'll invite our speakers to come and answer them there. But that's enough about me. You're not here to listen to me talk. So I'd like to introduce our speaker for today. So Shivani Holkar is a senior UX designer at Druva, and she'll be talking about designing for Web 3. So I'd like to welcome Shivani.
Hey, hi everyone. Thanks for joining and having me today. So, I'm Shivani, product designer and a Web3 enthusiast. So, how I started into this space was I started designing bounty projects with Super Team DAO. So, Super Team DAO is a community of operators, devs, and angels working on promising Solana projects. So, no one asked for a history lesson here, but yeah, here it is. With each internet evolution, there has been a fundamental differences in the way people use the web and therefore how design for users was done. So everyone seems to be talking about blockchain. More importantly, on radar of huge companies, and we know where there's money, there's traction. So Web3 is a word that is talk of the town these days. With new technologies in progress, Web3 stands out as the next big thing. But how design, especially UX, fits into this equation? What do these two terms mean, and can one exist without the other? Well, want to know more? I'll take you further in the talk and tell you on designing some more tips in a Web3 way. So, before that, now let's see how the evolution of the web happened. So, Web 1 was characterized by users being passive consumers of content. There were limited creators, and pages were designed in static environment. Web 2, also known as the internet largely, is characterized by heavier user participation, interaction, and personalization. Web 3, also known as what's everyone hyping up, is the next phase in the evolution of the web that's combination of multiple technologies, including blockchain, to create a web that is open, trustless, and safe. So for the next few minutes, I want you to see like how we can see how design or UX will be basically taking us ahead. Maybe you're thinking like, tell me how can I improve the design of my product, or is it deciding on the precise angle of the gradient or the corner radius of my buttons, or is it choosing the right item in the food pyramid to name my product after? For the record, we are over indexed on sweets with almost no carbs. Say something about the state of Web3 as a whole. So, no, not exactly those, but yes, I will be sharing some tips for designing better Web3 products. So, for the next few minutes, I want to challenge you to zoom out from your specific product interface and think with me as a human of Web3. All the messy transactions, channels, discourse, decisions that we individually and collectively experience. In Web3, we think, we do, hear, and have potential to build things a bit differently. So, yes, we know, like, yeah, the new industry can seem daunting. And the problem that we have is, yeah, it's more around the new terms, the new abbreviations, or the jargons that are floating around. There is so much talk surrounding Web3, but only a little understanding. And that's why, because the culture is primarily motivated by fear of missing out of movement, fancy terms, and hype. And so people are inclined to join this trend despite having little to no understanding of it. So the new technology is difficult for people to adopt because users are typically new to the space, and they, with this being new, means less familiarity and understanding of what basically the technology is. So this is the part where the UX comes into play to literate the users, guide them, and through this, we know, like, we're performing any actions when there's a case of instructing users. There are high chances that you are overwhelmed with a lot of information that pours in uh, user experience. And there's a whole new lingo that's floating around when it comes to Web3. There are so much signaling on the Web3 community with Web3 airdrop, tokens, metaverse, gas. So, what do these terms even mean? Sure, I could just Google them to know what their definition is, but what's in it for me as a designer? Most people still have no idea how it can improve or provide value to their lives. So, the challenge for us as designers is to hide complexity in Web3 products and focus on what really matters to our users. So, yes, we have the problem in Web3, and that's mass adoption. Throughout summer, I happened to attend Solana Hacker House Avalanche Summit. I learned about awesome projects built across the space and amazing builders powering it all. But there was one thing that was missing and had often been missing. And when I tried to objectively look at the products in the space, is focus on mass adoption. People's anchors are set, their mental models are formed, and most importantly, their expectations have reached all times high. So, simplification is the key to mass adoption. So, Web3 requires a non savvy internet user to understand things that go beyond the scope of a lazy buyer. Like, what is gas? How do I transfer my crypto into MetaMask or any other web wallet? Or where should I store the keys to my web wallet? Which web wallet should I use? How do I know if my bid is successful or not? And so on. Often words like decentralization and open source can instill a sense of false security into users that blockchain is impenetrable. We are in the early adoption phase. There are three big barriers right now. First being the onboarding experience. Wallets are not that easiest to navigate. Second, the transaction fees are high for chains like Ethereum. Although innovation is well underway in this space with chains like Solana and Polygon. And third, there is no central authority. Yes, this is one of the best part of Web3, but something users need to get accustomed to. You can't call your bank or a credit card provider and ask them to void a transaction. So when it's gone, like, it's really gone. So adoption is easier when I, as a user, can use the decentralized applications easily and quickly. And this how the design plays an important role to uptake and the adoption of the Web3. As most users will be onboarded into the world of blockchain through the apps, how they journey through this technical space can be heavily hindered and supported by design. Now let's tackle about Web3 design. When something is new in the market, it's comparatively difficult for people to trust. And guess what? If it involves finances part, then all the best, because the cause is worse now. Like, wait, maybe don't lose all hope in it, but UX is still there. Gone are the days when big giant companies used to show only the data that they wanted to show. The world is going to be more honest and transparent in the upcoming times. It's time to build the relationships based on transparency. And the good news is the design process is the same. If we don't design with equity in mind, we are going to create a system that perpetuates inequalities from Web 2. So during its early stages, it's important to or best to keep the look and feel of your Web3 apps familiar, as in similar to the Web2 products, in order to get more people onboarded. In Web2, our identities are tied to some centralized provider, which almost always require users to hand over their personal and confidential information. Examples of such identities are your Google account, your Facebook, Twitter, etc. In Web3, you simply link your wallet to a decentralized application to be able to interact with it. And unlike Web2, authentication methods, wallet addresses are pseudo anonymous by default. Increasing scams are making people anxious of losing their assets by accidentally connecting to wrong websites. Reassure them about the permissions you need and show your contract audits or social proofs. Blockchain is slow and takes time to confirm transactions. So, this often leaves people thinking, oh, the app is broken. But communicate these steps or the states using loaders and use error success messages wherever needed. So people using your app for the first time are still figuring out like how to use it and are often overwhelmed by the number of choices. So onboard people with product tours, walkthrough videos, and help talks. People using these apps are also not very familiar, like okay, what should, unless any your target audience is developers, you can't throw very heavy crypto jargons at them. So using of human friendly labels, something which they are already familiar with, adding descriptions and tooltips will educate them on the go. So Ethereum provides a great example by mentioning Twitter when quoting their free from censorship benefits. So this is a platform where users would already be familiar with. So as people learn about blockchain and its potential, so it's on the onus of designers to help people overcome this learning curve. Another great example of communicating value is Dean's website, which provides users with three levels of cards. So the first level shows the headings, the second level upon hover shows more information, and the third level lets users read more and takes them to the page with more details. So, trust and transparency are key characteristics of blockchain since it's decentralized. And particularly for the decentralized applications that hosts many transactions, all relevant information should be available for the users. And giving users the ability to see all fees affiliated with it, all the transactions is very important. And to build the trust of the users, it's important to be transparent, especially when it comes to the decentralized applications where people are trusting the application with their assets. And UX can definitely help in building trust in products by going with the transparent design approach. By transparent, I mean to say that we should show them enough of the details of the transaction, their asset details, clarifying the actions that are not reversible, clarifying actions that involve risk, providing history of their transactions, and delay. So it could take in completion of any action. So they should be aware of all these complexities, all the things that is happening when they take any action. So the more we are transparent about these things, the better we will build their trust of our users. So as a user, when you get this feeling that you can access all your information or everything that is going in front of you, this is definitely leveling up the trust, and all because of transparency. So you see the depth of details Uniswap is providing to the users when users interact with their app. So that's one way of building the trust of the user. Now let's see how the future of the industry is and how design will be playing an important role in this. So Web3 is coming faster than any one of us could have thought of. The transition from Web2 to Web3 is huge. And when transition is huge, we cannot compromise on the design processes or the UX part as well. So the Expedite design is working on designs of Web3 for quite some time now. And we realize that the need to redefine the few processes is very important, because one of the most important factors in the success of Web3 products is the speed of executing your idea and launching it in the market. So, and if we talk about the most followed sequence of UX design, it can now be obsolete for Web3 products. What we can do is design the MVP product with some basic functionalities after conducting user interviews and about the pain points and wants and frustrations, and launch the product in the market. After launching, gather the real data with the help of heat maps and surveys, and then reconsider your UX decisions based on those real facts and figures. So, iteration is the key here. I know it'll take time, but eventually it will be able to achieve the mass adoption of this new technology with help of UX. Since it's a new space, this chance to set standard of user experience, and also as we know, like uh, it's the key flows are going to impact millions. So whether you agree with this vision or not, as builders of Web3, it's crucial to formulate that vision of a world you would like to live in. So maybe even more important than what we build is how we build it, especially when we are in the formative years of Web3. I also discovered that design has to be present from the moment the smart contract is being written. So, a huge part of user experience is done there. And if you don't pay attention to that step, you cannot do anything later on. Immutability, both good and bad. And this tells us that there is very little tolerance for mistakes. So, one wrong action can lead to disastrous results. So, this is the part where UX comes in when technology is so crucial. So, you must give users enough understanding about the action they are taking and give the margin to cross check the action being performed. So, double confirmations, warning alerts can help reduce these mistakes. Let's consider an example of wallet creation. If you lose the seed phrase, all the money in it has gone and there are zero chances of recovering your account. So, do you see how crucial it is? A huge impact and amount of losses that has been happened. It could have prevented by just putting thoughts while designing the experience of the product. So some examples of double confirmations and warnings, even if one has to compromise on the UX because the real assets of people are involved in this. So the deliverable is always the user facing product and not a technical or a smart contract or a backend product. So this is not the product, this is the product. So UX design in Web3 is just beyond design. In fact, even in Web2, UX designers cannot solve the problems of the users alone. Through the design, they are collaborating with developers, product managers, and also it's the product that a user loves. So in Web3, the attention will be the user because the user will be actually the key part of the product. Hence, what will matter the most is the actual incentives a platform is providing. For example, lower gas fees, high transaction speeds, more return on investments, and etc. So, if we actually want to make this technology easier to understand and increase its adoption, then the designers, product managers, developers must work together so that they can be on the same page in the thing that a designer is designing is technically feasible or not. And if it's not possible, then how can we find a middle ground for it? In the end, it's about making the combined efforts in one direction. Designers are playing an important part in the future of blockchain technology. For those of us familiar with user centered design, this is not much more complicated than knowing your users. The way we are is the result of our surroundings, and our surroundings are just but different in Web3. To sum it up, the days are not far from where the most of applications that we are using in our daily lives might be shifted to Web3. So more value will be provided to the users for the contribution. So there is so much going on in the world of Web3, and people might not be ready to adopt the changes that are on their way. So user experience can play a huge role in making people ready for this change by not making the changes look so huge through design. So we have a very good example recently came up with by Polygon. So they launched their Finity, a first interconnected system of elements. So that is a design system that will allow teams to quickly prototype, launch, and scale their products without compromising on aesthetics and usability. So you see how people have started thinking about the Web3 design world. So not too late. It's a good time to start thinking in the Web3 way. We are at the early stages of a very truly decentralized internet. There are more and more decentralized services and tools and technologies that are appearing on the horizon. And I believe that UX design will play a pivotal role in bridging the gap between our centralized internet and the new decentralized technologies. So let's see how the journey goes. So thank you everyone for having me today, and I hope you walk away with some interesting learnings from my talk. And if you have any questions, feel free to DM me on my Twitter handle or also on the Slack community channel. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Shivani. I always like the kind of the bigger challenges of something brand new. It's always kind
Yeah.
of so daunting. You're trying to sell a
Correct.
product as well as educate people, which is
Yeah.
very,
Correct.
very challenging.
Yeah.
So as Shivani said, if you have any questions, please feel free to write them in on whichever platform you're watching this
Yeah.
on, and I'll put those questions through to Shivani. But I'll kick off, and I guess it might be a slightly controversial one, but I'm very guilty of this where I see a technology and I think, oh, that would be great. And then I start looking for the problem
Correct.
versus starting with from a design perspective, you start with
Correct.
the customer problem and
Yeah.
then figure out how to solve it. So is Web3 an example of we're starting, as you mentioned, like it's the blockchain, it's all of these kind of amazing technologies, but are we
Correct.
trying too hard to find a problem starting with the technology? Or can you give me some examples of technology or products that are really kind of innovative and solving customer problems?
So yeah, it's also about the technology, like your first point which you mentioned. So yeah, it's about the technology. There are some challenges. So it's not like we are starting our design and then we are doing the coding. So it's also about we are first doing the smart contract. So smart contract is nothing but the code which is being written in blockchain. So there is a challenge where people are finding it difficult. So most of the decisions that are being taken are happening at that step itself. So when it comes to design, the designer is just blocked. He has limitations, so he can't change anything that time. So that's where I'm trying to maybe tell everyone is, or maybe the companies or the products should adopt to this. Not everyone is doing it. So Polygon is doing a great work there. So they have a big team of designers who are actually trying to bridge this gap. So they are actually working with their developers. So it's not like a design team, so it's a product team, like everyone together working on a project. So it's not like they're individually working in different parts. So they have this Cope Studio, which is their they recently acquired. So they're working on the brand sides of things. So I think UX designers especially have actually become the part of these key decisions that are being taken during the product making. So yeah, that playing a crucial. But yeah, technically, if we see, the technology do have some limitations, which is actually having this hindrance of not as we hear about in the market, like people say that is not very usable app, or the it's very complex to understand, or there are a lot of text in that. So yeah, that's where, like, but now people are trying to come up with different design systems, is what I showed for Finity. So yes.
Great. And the way I like to think about it, any new technology, the Gartner hype cycle. So it
Correct.
gets really hyped, and then you have the
And
drop
yes,
of
correct. So I
disillusionment.
think last year it was all Web3, and now it's as the market was down with many things that happened. So yeah,
Yeah.
but it
So,
will be
so I
up.
guess now we're probably looking
Now
at kind of
yeah, it's
the
coming up.
growth and the real. So navel gazing, what do you think the future is going to hold, or what do you think is going to be really impactful over the next year or two?
I think like people will still like start working, will keep working and try bringing in the innovation. So the market is going to be really good. And I think what I've seen, especially I traveled different summits like Avalanche Summit. So especially in India, I didn't see that much, but yeah, abroad I've seen like, yeah, there's a scope. People are actually building in this space, giving full time to all the technical and innovations there. So yeah, this space is really going to grow high. So yeah. Mhm.
Excellent. Yeah, it's always interesting. I guess now we're in the hype cycle of AI, so we'll see where that
Yeah.
goes as well over the
Correct.
next year or two.
Maybe chat GPT, like AI and Web3 is the next thing. Maybe yeah, something like innovation is happening in that. field.
Great. Um, well, I think that's the questions that I have. So if anybody has any other questions, send them in, and we can always just post them onto our Slack community after
I'll
the
answer
fact.
that. Yeah.
But thank you very much, Shivani, for sharing all of your insights.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great. So that actually brings us to the end for today. But if you like the talk or the concept of UXDX and what we're doing, um, I'd like to you could come along and join us at one of our conferences. So we host a conference in USA in just over 4 weeks' time now. There'll be 25 speakers, 500 attendees, and we get product UX design and dev together, because if you want to develop a product team, the team need to learn together and understand how to work together. Now, I know that that's not too long away, so we also host an event in EMEA in October, and we will be doing an APAC event, online event in November as well. So if you like the concept and the talks, please do consider joining us. And if not, I look forward to seeing you at the next UXDX Online. So thank you very much, and thank you to Shivani for sharing her insights today.